Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Thursday. We got a great show for you all today. Stick around for the next hour and then some probably. Look, it's going to be an amazing show. Not to like overhype it or anything like that. Amazing show. We got a lot of stuff. We got George W. Bush accidentally being based. What is going on here? We have Elon Musk becomes a Republican, or at least openly comes out as a Republican. We have that. We've got pillow talk, somewhat related to that. We have some criticism of Briahna Joy Gray. So that's going to be interesting. And then Dave Rubin. Oh, yeah. Dave Rubin. Fun stuff. We got a fun show today. Lots of stuff, lots of video to show you. So, let's do it. Before we do, like and share the stream. Very important you do so. Helps us out with our reach. That said, let's do it. All right. There's a clip of former President George W. Bush that has gone viral, and once you see it, you'll understand why.
The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, too. Anyway. 75. Here's the.
Yeah, 75. Age isn't too kind. You know what I'm saying? Oh, here we go. But look, hey, that was fantastic because the guy just admitted it. That's just not a faux pas. I don't think that's just because he's old. I do think that it's on his mind. Come on. No, he knows. Look, the guy, how could he not know that he got 1 million Iraqis killed in his bullshit, unjustified, brutal invasion of Iraq? And now look, and it's not just the Iraqi death toll, by the way. You had coalition troops that were killed. in the war, the insurgency. You have survivors that are suffering now still from PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, illnesses related to depleted uranium rounds. All of that is on George W. Bush. That's the guy. As one of you points out, that's Grandpa war crime. Absolutely. Absolutely. This man is a war criminal. He has blood on his hands. No matter how many pretty pictures he goes and paints, he's a war criminal. He got people killed, lots and lots of people killed. And by the way, this guy is now walking around and giving speeches apparently about how bad Putin is. And I'm not saying Putin's good, right? I'm just saying what that is the pot calling the kettle black. Now, while I was doing research on this story, I actually went back and I've got a video to show you of Senator Bernie Sanders back in 2002 making an exact argument of, hey, if we do the invasion of Iraq, and I'll show you the full video here, if we do that invasion, this unjustified attack, well, I mean, that's going to make it real difficult for us to criticize other countries when they do the same thing. And oh, look, Russia did the same thing to Ukraine. Weird. Now, of course, the reaction to was the crowd. They laughed. Why? Why did they laugh? That's not something that's funny. I mean, except for the irony of oh, he admitted it. That's not funny. Millions of people died. And the reason they laugh is because, I mean, okay. There's a couple reasons. For number one, he's been rehabilitated by the libs, okay, by the liberal press, by the establishment. Secondly, anybody who's going to watch George W. Bush give a speech is already very likely a neocon. So those are the only people that, or liberal in this case, those are the only people that are going to watch George W. Bush. So, and by the way, if you're a neocon ghoul, you probably still believe that the invasion was totally fine. Either that or you have the amnesia over one of the biggest foreign policy debacles of my lifetime. It's absolutely disgusting on so many different levels here. The laundering of this monstrous image, I think it's one of the biggest indictments of the establishment. Just because we had Donald Trump, who, again, monstrous, right? Doesn't absolve George W. Bush of his crimes. But yet, you have Ellen DeGeneres that loves him. A good friend George W. Bush. Michelle Obama. Joe Biden. They love him. And by the way, Joe Biden, going back to him, he did vote for that disastrous war. There's also blood on his hands. The only people that voted against this, that really stood up against this, were people like Barbara Lee. I think she was only House member to vote against this. And of course, you have Bernie Sanders, which I'm going to show you his 5 different reasons that he gave at during his speech on the floor of Congress back in 2002 while they were discussing this, invasion.
Mr. Speaker, in the brief time I have, let me give you 5 reasons why I'm opposed to giving the president a blank check to launch a unilateral invasion and occupation of Iraq, and why I will vote against this resolution. 1, I have not heard any estimates of how many young American men and women might die in such a war, or how many tens of thousands of women and children in Iraq might also be killed. 2nd, I am deeply concerned about the precedent that a unilateral invasion of Iraq could establish in terms of international law and the role of the United Nations. If President Bush believes that the U.S. can go to war at any time against any nation, what moral or legal obligation could our government raise if another country chose to do the same thing? 3rd, the United States is now involved in a very difficult war against international terrorism, as we learned tragically on September 11th. 4th, at a time when this country has a $6 trillion national debt and a growing deficit, we should be clear that a war and a long-term American occupation of Iraq could be extremely expensive. Fifth, I am concerned about the problems of so-called unintended consequences. Who will govern Iraq when Saddam Hussein is removed? And what role will the U.S. play in an ensuing civil war that could develop in that country? Will moderate governments in the region who have large Islamic fundamentalist populations be overthrown and replaced by extremists? Will the bloody conflict between Israel and the Palestinian Authority be exacerbated? And these are just a few of the questions that remain unanswered.
Oh, look, and it turns out those questions ended up being incredibly poignant. It's almost like all the bad decisions this country has been making over the past few decades, Bernie Sanders was out there saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we shouldn't do that. This sounds like it could be a bad idea. And what happened? Well, we did it anyway. Of course. And so, yeah. Now, that said, this video went viral. Not the one about Bernie Sanders, although it should, but the one about George W. Bush. And it actually went around on Arabic media as well. And so you had some Iraqi journalists that weighed in. In fact, here's Iraqi journalist Omar El-Janabi, who tweeted this: "The specter of Iraq's invasion and destruction haunts Bush Jr. His subconscious exposed it when it took over his tongue. Yes, it is a brutal and unjustified invasion, which will remain your worst nightmare." Damn. Another journalist, Nahid Al-Tamimi, says this: "The crime of your occupation of Iraq and its destruction will remain a nightmare that haunts your sleep and torments your dead criminal consciences." Oof. Mincing no words. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think I can add much more to this than that. I think they summed it up pretty well. Again, the war in Iraq is, it is a colossal injustice that has absolutely no remedy at this point. You can't undo the war, you can't undo the invasion, you can't undo the years of occupation and civil war, you can't bring back the dead. But and as long as as long as the United States continues to allow this monster to walk free, that wound created by him and Dick Cheney and the rest of the ghouls that, put us on this path to the war, and the intelligence agencies that lied about weapons of mass destruction, and the corporations like Halliburton that benefited greatly from Iraq's destruction. As long as we allow those people and organizations to run free and to not be punished, that wound that was created will continue to fester and will never heal. Okay. Oh, Jesus. All right. Heavy story. Heavy story. Let's move on. Elon Musk officially announced on Wednesday that he is becoming a Republican. I'm a Republican now. In fact, here's what he tweeted. "In the past, I voted Democrat because they were mostly the kindness party. The kindness party. But they have become the party of division and hate. So I can no longer support them. Now, watch their dirty tricks campaign against me unfold." Now, look, before I get into the absurdity that is Republicans being the kinder, less divisive party, let's go to what's really going on. And we know Tesla was recently removed from a stock market index that includes companies dedicated to ESG. Now, what is ESG? It is the environmental, social issues, and corporate governance. So now, look, Tesla stock has been, well, I wouldn't say cratering, but it has been losing quite a bit of value as of recently. And of course, Elon Musk now probably not going to buy Twitter, might not even have enough money. And yet Twitter is actually, interestingly enough, trying to make sure that they enforce the deal. And so, now the index called the S&P 500 ESG index dropped Tesla due to a variety of factors, including relatively low scores related to codes of business conduct, the way it responded to a federal investigation after multiple deaths and injuries were allegedly linked to its autopilot vehicles, and concerns about workplace conditions at one of its factories, including claims of rampant racial discrimination. Now, let me give you more details about that, because it appears there seems to be some lawsuits here. Now, one lawsuit, there was a manager that would greet employees at Tesla's electric car factory in Fremont, California with, "Welcome to the plantation," and sometimes also say things like, "Welcome to the slave house," to the black employees. Yeah, that sounds like it might be a little bit problematic. Now, one of the people that has filed a lawsuit is named Rena Pierce, and she started working in production at the Fremont plant in January of 2021. So she installed latches onto car doors. According to her suit filed in Alameda County Superior Court, supervisors referred to Pierce using racial epithets and a gender-based insults, according to the suit. Pierce further claimed that in her suit that when a facility manager noticed she had been assigned to push 2 carts that were too heavy for one person and notified her direct supervisors, one of them angrily claimed that she had gotten him in trouble and later made vulgar comments about not being able to stand black people. Her supervisors also denied a request to switch stations despite allowing non-black workers to do so, and also disciplined her more frequently and severely than they did non-black workers. She also claims the company did retaliate against her for reporting these issues. Oh, but there's more. There's another incident involving somebody named Kaylin Barker, a black worker at a Tesla Parks factory in Lathrop. She claimed that in a lawsuit that a white coworker called her racial epithets and assaulted her. According to the suit, Tesla fired her assailant and then rehired her about 2 weeks later. Oops. Numerous other, of course, lawsuits. Here's a couple that they lost. In October of 2021, a San Francisco federal court jury awarded a black former Tesla worker, Owen Diaz, almost $137 million after he sued the company over experiencing daily racist epithets in a workplace where colleagues drew swastikas and left racist graffiti and drawings around the facility. And again, there's a lot more of this. Very, very clear problem with racism at his company. So, if you had heard something about that, maybe you would have done something. You fired some managers, all that stuff. What did Elon Musk do? Nothing. He didn't do anything about it. And of course he can claim that, I didn't know what was going on at my own company. But then you kind of suck as a boss. Maybe get off Twitter. Stop tweeting so much and actually do your fucking job. But now, Musk responded to the ESG ratings, saying that it's an outrageous scam. Political attacks on me will escalate dramatically in coming months. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's because you're trash. Garbage. Oh, how dare you call the great Elon Musk, garbage. It's called free speech, bitch. Get used to it. But no, here's the thing, right? So, look, Musk wants to vote for he wants to vote for Republicans and become a Republican because, look, he knows that the Republicans are racist and very likely won't come after him for his company being racist towards its employees. And of course, the union busting as well. He also knows that Republicans will cut his taxes, will not raise his taxes. That's usually one of the biggest reasons here. That helps him get richer, of course. And he also knows that Republicans will continue to gut regulations. Regulations that he had run afoul of before. So, and of course, there's the union busting as well. Although Democrats also tend to do a little bit of union busting as well. So that said, let's get to the ridiculousness now. That the left is somehow the party of division and hatred. Bro, Republicans literally tried to overthrow an election and disenfranchise 81 million voters. That's how many people voted for Joe Biden. Believe it or not, it's fact. That's a fact. 81 million voters voted for Joe Biden. So, and look, people like Tucker Carlson also constantly talk about how Democrats are communists, they're the enemy, they're coming for you, they're going to bring in people to replace you, white replacement theory, all that nonsense, right? And so you have right-wingers out there that are asking, okay, when do we start shooting? I'm not kidding. I've showed you that before. You got the Buffalo shooter who actually did shoot. Gendron talking about in his manifesto, hatred against black people, great, white replacement or great replacement. And by the way, speaking of great replacement, that conspiracy theory has been adopted by nearly half of all Republicans. They believe it. And in case you're unfamiliar with what that means, it means that nearly half of all Republicans believe that Jewish people like George Soros are funding immigrant caravans and that the Democrats are bringing in, importing undocumented or illegals into the country in order to replace white people. That brings me back to when we talked about Charlottesville, where you had neo-Nazis that were out there chanting, the Jews will not replace us. But no, it's the Democrats that are hate, full of hate and division. Right. And look, you also have QAnon. There's a lot of Republicans that believe in QAnon as well. Now, QAnon alleges that the entire Democratic Party, Hollywood, all that, they're filled with satanic pedophiles that drink the blood of children. That is absolute insanity. And yet you have a significant number of Republicans, even elected officials like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that have espoused this conspiracy theory. But maybe Elon Musk just wasn't paying attention to basically anything. I guess he was working too hard or tweeting too much to even notice that they were coming up with these nonsense conspiracy theories. And yes, dividing people. Or more likely, it's just he knows all this, doesn't care, because right-wingers kiss his ass. Oh, another thing is, Democrats actually want to regulate cryptocurrency. Nah, that's another thing. And Republicans don't want to. And yet those same people, the crypto bros, the NFTers, are like, all my apes are stolen. All my apes stolen. What happened? Maybe you could use a little bit of, regulation. But they hate that. Now, look, the other thing, of course, we don't lionize billionaires because they're, rich. I don't care how rich you are. If you have thin skin, which, by the way, this guy has. Elon Musk has some of the thinnest skin imaginable. Very, very triggered by criticism. It is super ironic for this supposed free speech warrior. But yeah, again, a lot of you, nobody's really surprised that he's a Republican. Now, I want to share some responses here because I think these are fun. Nina Turner, bringing the fire. Hello, somebody. She says, framing the GOP as the anti-hate party, not even a week after the Buffalo shooting, is certainly a choice, Elon. And then adds, oh, you mean kindness to the ultra wealthy. Got it. Nina with the fire. John Favreau also tweets, hey man, if you want to support a bunch of electric vehicle hating climate deniers, that's on you. Yeah, that is kind of weird, right? I mean, you think that if you were smart and were doing things that were pro your business, because again, Democrats are pro business, but they happen to be more pro electric vehicle and renewable energy, a little bit more so than Republicans, who are pretty much all in the pockets of coal and oil. Now, again, he says, not sure if it helps the cause that you and your team have dedicated much of your lives to, but I guess you'll get some attention on Twitter, so there's that. Now, look, Republicans, I'll demonstrate how Republicans have been trying to push to kill electric vehicles for years. Again, we all know that this is the case, but let me give you some specific examples. In 2019, Republicans pushed a bill to strip out tax credits for people who purchase electric vehicles. The same bill pushed by Republicans, getting money from oil and gas, would also tax electric vehicles more, making it, of course, less likely for somebody to make an investment in these renewable electric vehicles. Now, if you make them less affordable, what do you think that's going to do for sales of Tesla? Now, Republicans also, in the infrastructure bill, forced the Biden administration to massively cut back on initiatives that would have increased EV sales, including tax credits and charging stations. I think Biden wanted to put his $173 billion into these measures. Republicans, $4 billion. Well done. Now, that's okay, though. For Musk, yeah, well, at least they're nice to me. At least they kiss my ass. Even though they're effectively trying to kill his business. Well done. Well done, Republicans. Well done, Elon Musk. They call him an intellectual, right? A visionary. No, he's nothing more than an egotistical dipshit. Now, David Rothschild tweets this. Rich white son of an emerald mine owner who grew up in apartheid South Africa is the real victim in our society. Oh, yes. Thoughts and prayers. Walter Masterson says, common form of gaslighting amongst conservatives. They announce that they're conservative, then blame everyone else. I can't believe you pushed me over to the right wing where I really, really wanted to go. I mean, I can't believe you were so mean to me that you made me give up all my core beliefs. Or maybe you didn't have beliefs to begin with. No core. Or your core was always conservative. In fact, that tweet says, the left was so intolerant that I changed my position on systemic injustice, the Civil War, on women's right to choose, trans rights, and peer-reviewed science. Once again, this is all about poor Elon Musk. On how the left is so mean. They're so radical. Even though the right wing has gotten way more right wing, while the left wing has barely moved. But hey, you know what? Ego is a hell of a thing. EVs are a scam. We'll never be able to replace gas-powered cars with EV. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say it is a scam, but certainly there are uses of it. There are pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses compared to traditional combustion, engine-powered vehicles. And look, if you do want to point out that our infrastructure doesn't really do a whole lot of good, if you plug in your electric vehicle to a grid that operates on coal. That's one thing that really needs to be addressed here And I don't see a lot of people addressing that. At least not mainstream liberals or things like that. But, you know, we have to actually do a more comprehensive, you know, change of our energy grid in order to make EVs actually help with the environment. And of course, has to be more innovation in battery technology, maybe a way to make it so that we don't require so much rare earth materials, which lead to exploitation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yes, technology has a way of advancing. Yeah. And you know what? In order for that to happen, you also have to, I don't know, do some investment. Also, public transportation also needs to be a thing. More of a thing in this country. So, all right, anyway. That said, let's dive in. We've got a related story, but this time it involves Mike Pillow. Huh. What do these two things have in common? Oh, right. Now that Elon Musk has officially come out as a Republican, he's already being approached by new prospective allies. The latest happens to be our good friend, Mike Pillow, which means it's time for another episode of Pillow Talk.
God gave me this platform. I already know I'm going to win. China did our vote. Biden and Harris would say, hey, we're here to protect the country, and resign. Mike Lindell's a conspiracy. But you haven't. Just forget about the evidence. This was attacked.
I love that. All right. My Pillow CEO Mike Lindell, fresh off several recent losses, wanted to get the defamation suit filed by a former Dominion employee against him and others, tossed, is looking for some allies to help him overturn the 2020 election. Yes, I know. Still. In fact, Lindell recently issued a public invitation to Elon Musk on Facebook to review his so-called proof.
I wanted to reach out if Elon Musk, if you're watching, I want to reach out to Elon Musk, Brandon, and not for any other reason other than he's got a big presence out there right now. He's all over the news, right? And he's driving the left crazy. He's trying to kind of woo conservatives. I guess that would be the word. Well, my thing is, I'd like to sit down with Elon myself one-on-one and show him in a 15-minute little presentation I have and say, here's where we're at. This is what they did. Here is these. You flew to the moon or whatever, flew to outer space. Here's the cyber stuff.
Okay, Elon, I have the cyber stuff, and I know you went to the moon, you went to space, and maybe you can help me. If you go to space, you can find the Italian satellites that hacked the election, along with the Iranians and maybe the Pomeranians, if you can find them, who stole the election from Donald Trump. And I just want to talk to you. Just give me 15 minutes, Elon, please. 15 minutes. I love how you're driving the left crazy. Just please talk to me. 15 minutes. That's all I need. Wow. Sad. So look, here's what Elon Musk isn't doing. Driving left crazy. You know why? Because he's incredibly easy to dunk on. It's so much fun. The man-child has the thinnest skin in the world. Very, very easy to trigger. He gets mad when people criticize him at all. And look, I think that's a result of him being so used to the establishment press, business people, kissing his ass. I mean, of course, right? The great and powerful Elon Musk. He could even be the savior of humanity. Really? Really? Well, apparently Mike Pillow wants him to be the savior of the United States. Of the Trump presidency that has been over. But look, no, here's the truth about Elon Musk, right? So the guy was obviously born rich, got a lot of money from his daddy owning an emerald mine. And so he took that money and bought out a bunch of companies, started a couple of others. And look, for Tesla, there wasn't really a gigantic EV market here. And of course, the United States government, thanks to budget cuts and not really a huge interest, I think from the public when it comes to space, wasn't really doing a whole lot with space. All right. So now look, I like space. I like electric vehicles. I like tacos. But see, Elon Musk did not invent the electric car, obviously. No, again, he took that fortune from daddy's emerald mine, bought the name Tesla, got a shitload of government subsidies, and then, yes, was able to make some cars. All right, I don't have any problem with that. I think we should subsidize electric vehicles. Of course, never had a problem with that. Now, I do have an issue, though, with people who claim to be self-made men, and that's, of course, Elon Musk and every Republican. Again, if you get a ton of money from the government in subsidies, you're by definition not self-made. That said, so look, again, at some point, liberals stopped kissing his ass, maybe because of his union busting, racism in his company, cringe-inducing tweets that would literally rock the crypto markets. Okay. And so, I mean, he tweets something like, oh, Doge going to the moon. And then suddenly, what? You have all these people making money, and then it crashes later on. And so, look, the guy's not a genius. And when you point that out, oh, the poor guy catches feelings. And then suddenly it's the left wing that is divisive and mean. How dare you be mean to me? How dare you? I'm going to go be a Republican. All right. Bye, bitch. I mean, again, this is ridiculous. And now what's funny is he has no idea what he's stepping into. He's going to have dipshits like Mike Pillow that are, obviously, you saw him begging, just begging for his money and his clout. His big thing. His big reach. Well, congratulations. You have chosen your new friends. Enjoy. That's just what happens, man. All right. Let's switch gears here. Let's go to some criticism of the left. What is this? What is this on the show? What are we doing? Well, I'm going to show you. Because, boy, this is frustrating.
Democrats have so totally abandoned the working class, voters of all colors, that growing numbers of non-whites are looking for alternatives. Among Congress members, Republicans are the more vocal anti-interventionists right now. Marjorie Taylor Greene is out here outflanking squad members on the absurdity of giving aid to Ukraine while American babies starve. And Latinos are an important part of the Republican base.
All right, so that was Briahna Joy Gray publicly defending or caping or whatever for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, this was during a discussion of Tucker Carlson and whether or not Tucker Carlson was right. So now, look, I'll get to that in a minute, right? But look, she said Marjorie Taylor Greene is outflanking the squad. What? Now, her premise, her premise that Democrats have abandoned the working class, I think that's largely true. I don't have any issue with that. Are the Democrats a party of the donors? Yes. We do know this. There are a few elected officials in the Democratic Party that do care about working class voters, but right now they're pretty well outnumbered by corporate Democrats. Now, she also noted that it is easier for the $40 billion in Ukraine aid to get out the door than it does aid for the American people. And I think that also is a good criticism. Those are facts. I don't have any issue with pointing that out. But when she praises Marjorie Taylor Greene, well, that's when she flies off into absurdity. Look, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not outflanking the squad from the left. I'm sorry, on what planet is that happening? Oh, well, Joe Biden, he didn't do anything about the baby formula shortage, but could find time to send money to Ukraine. Oh, okay, first of all, does the government make baby formula? No, they don't. Is she advocating for the government to make baby formula? No. So look, that said, are there issues with the supply chain with baby formula? Yes, the right wing has been attacking them on that issue for a while, attacking the Biden administration. So now look, here's what the Biden administration is doing right now. They've recently, as of yesterday, invoked the Defense Production Act to make more baby formula. All right, look, that's the bare minimum, but I'll take it. That's great. And again, the government does not make formula, so it's not like they could have increased production or whatever, right? And one of the major companies that did, Abbott Laboratories, was recently shut down because of a whistleblower who had talked about this company allowing contamination, Chronobacter specifically, of their infant formula. So now this company, according to the whistleblower, the executives knew that this machine was broken and that there was the possibility that some of their supply would be contaminated. Now, they knew it, they didn't do anything about it, and instead they spent $5.7 billion on buying back their own stocks. And you know who shut them down? The Biden FDA. That seems like the right thing to do, to shut down a company that is putting out contaminated baby food. Now, unfortunately, since they had such a large market share of baby food, of baby formula, that did have a significant impact on the supply. There were places in certain parts of the country that weren't getting enough. And of course, there are places in other parts of the country that had enough. So there was a shortage in certain areas. And because of the shortage, you kind of had to go and find baby formula in different areas. Some places were out, some places had some. So now the right wing, of course, jumped on this and said, oh, it's Joe Biden's fault. It's all Joe Biden's fault. And it's because, well, they're sending all the baby formula to the border for the immigrants. What are they supposed to do? Not send the formula to the immigrants who are in detention, who can't exactly leave? They can't go on Amazon and order, baby formula to come in. They can't go to the Walmart. They can't leave. They're in detention. What do you expect them to do? And of course, the federal government, as a result of the Flores settlement, has to feed them. I mean, again, Republicans are out there saying, starve immigrant babies. And Briahna Joy Gray is saying, but they're starving American babies by sending money to Ukraine. Those things are not mutually exclusive, by the way. And again, what was the FDA to do? Not shut it down? Now, okay, so let's get to the outflanking of the squad, right? So what's interesting is here, yesterday there were two bills. Now, these two bills were put into Congress that were meant to address some of these issues. In fact, on Wednesday, the House of Representatives overwhelmingly passed the Access to Baby Formula Act. Okay? So now, how did that vote go? And I'll explain what that is, by the way. 414 votes in favor, 9 opposed. 9 opposed. So look, this was incredibly bipartisan. That bill would have made it easier for poor people to get access to formula, people on WIC, and also would have required formula manufacturers to place contingencies in order to prevent the supply disruptions. So now, 9 people voted no, in the House. Well, squad members are in the House. Was it the squad? Did they vote against this? Well, let's take a look. No votes were cast by Representatives Andy Biggs, Lauren Boebert, Thomas Massey, Clay Higgins, Matt Gaetz, Chip Roy, Paul Gosar, Louis Gohmert, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. What? Wait a minute. I thought she was outflanking the squad. What are you doing? Marjorie Taylor Greene saw poor people getting prioritized and said, no, I don't care about poor people. If you're poor, fuck off. Your baby can starve. Even if it's American baby. If it's an American baby. But if it's poor, fuck them. Now, there was a second bill, by the way. H.R. 7790. Now, that also went along with this bill, and it proposed a $28 million cash infusion to help the FDA address the current formula shortage and prevent future supply chain issues. So now, Rosa DeLauro, who's the person that introduced this bill, told NBC before the vote that most of the money in her legislation would go to staffing the FDA and to bolster its inspection forces. Now, remember, this was because inspectors were lied to by Abbott Labs, right? The people working at Abbott Labs fooled the inspectors. They hid the brokenness of the machines from these inspectors. And of course, we know that because of defunding, there generally is never enough inspectors in these workplaces to begin with, right? And so there's not really oversight here. So now you would think that, hey, putting a little bit more funding into this, into inspections, into food safety inspectors would be a good thing to keep the baby food from getting contaminated again, right? So now, how did Marjorie Taylor Greene vote on that? Did she vote in favor of sending this money to help American babies be able to get safe formula? Her vote is a nay. How weird. Oh my God. Marjorie Taylor Greene. How? I thought you were supposed to be outflanking the squad and from the left. And yet, what about AOC? Okay, what was AOC's vote then? Did she vote against this? No. She voted in favor of it. All Democrats voted for this in the House. Oh man, weird. Oh, that's super weird. It's almost like Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't actually give a shit about starving babies. Starving American babies, by the way. Or, by the way, being anti-war, because that's the other thing, right? So she talked about, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against sending the $40 billion of aid to Ukraine. Okay. So now look, here's the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene claims to be anti-war, but is invested in Lockheed Martin. She bought stock 2 days before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So, come on. She knew that this bill was going to pass anyway. So, do a show vote against it? Well, we're going to do that. We're going to do a show vote against it so I can say, I'm against war, while then reaping in the profit. That's the sleight of hand that you have from these Republicans, from people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And by the way, I actually don't like the fact that we sent $40 billion to Ukraine without any sort of, COVID stuff attached to it. That would have been nice. Some domestic spending for average Americans. And I think it is a problem that it is so easy for us to pass giveaways to the defense contractors, not to mention, of course, the rubber stamps. And again, some of this includes the squad, voting in favor of increasing the military budget. I'm against all of those things, right? But again, this is not taking formula out of the mouths of starving babies. Now, Republicans, as I mentioned, have actually been trying to do that when it comes to immigrants. Did you not know that, Briahna? I'm sure you knew. You're a smart person. You get it. You've probably seen it. But let's go to the next one, because the next video is even more infuriating. So this is Briahna defending Tucker Carlson, his language when it comes to immigrants.
In the wake of the Buffalo massacre, Tucker Carlson has come under scrutiny as perhaps the most high-profile purveyor of this narrative. He, of course, does not advocate for physical violence against non-white populations or anyone. In fact, Tucker Carlson is fastidiously race-neutral in his language, frequently adopting the famous colorblind quote from Martin Luther King, and stressing that his interest is in protecting American culture and the American way of life. Now, liberals interpret these statements about, America being stolen, etc., as dog whistles, as veiled references to a white way of life. But Tucker Carlson never says that explicitly. And the more liberals accuse him of broadly being racist without being able to articulate why what he said is wrong, the more Tucker gains credibility.
Tucker Carlson gaining credibility? Race neutral. Tucker Carlson, he's very race neutral because he doesn't specifically say do harm to immigrants. Well, you know what a dog whistle is, right? It's you saying something in just the right way to get the right people who are listening for that whistle to understand what you're saying. And so it's, look, in the way that dogs will hear certain frequencies, racists will hear the code words. They'll hear things like invasion, replacement, change the population of the United States and think, well, obviously, they're coming after white people. They're going to replace us. I mean, why do you think Nick Fuentes is praising Tucker for getting out that his white nationalist talking points? Why do you think other white nationalists and white supremacists like David Duke love Tucker Carlson's show? They say, that's my guy. He represents us. He's getting out our worldview to the masses. He is red-pilling everyone all over the place. Bree, we all know what he means. We all know. Now, of course, she tweeted, and she was called out by Jordan Sheridan. Here's what he said to Bree. Disagree on this. Carlson discussion doesn't require much nuance. It's clear who he's referring to when he decries the invasion targeting legacy Americans. It's not a dog whistle. It's a siren. Of course, he's not responsible for white supremacy, but clear what he's doing. So look, that's a good call out. Yes, of course, nobody here is blaming Tucker Carlson as the originator of white supremacy. That's ridiculous. But he is using white supremacy and white nationalism as talking points on his show in order to get viewers. So, but here's what she responds to, I'm sorry. Well, a lot of folks don't think it's clear. Oh, really? Very interesting. I wonder what kind of folks aren't clear about that. And then adds, and because white liberals like to smugly assert dog whistle instead of explaining what racism is. Because frankly, they can't. My people get murdered. Read the comments under the video. I have Tucker supporters finally getting it. Oh, okay. So look, I went and I read the comments, right? And all of them were like, oh, Briahna, thank you so much for explaining this in such a clear way. All right. So again, there are the comments. I read some of the comments. But I don't know. I have this feeling like, I don't know. How could you not know what racism is? Maybe I'm a fucking smug liberal and I don't get it. But to me, it doesn't seem all that difficult to grasp that saying, oh, immigrants are coming over, to replace us. When in reality, of course, you have people that are coming in to request asylum as a result of poor economic conditions that are caused, of course, by some U.S. imperialism, Okay, we've definitely done a lot of that. Overthrowing other countries, their elected leftist leaders. You also have, of course, issues with, I don't know, economic problems caused by the United States. For example, we over-subsidize corn. The government subsidized the shit out of corn. Well, what did that put corn farmers in Mexico? That put them out of business. That massively impacted their own economy. And so what do when they're desperate? Well, they got to come here. They got to come somewhere, right? So you have that. And of course, you have the drug war. All very important critiques that you can critique the Biden administration, by the way, from the left, because he hasn't ended the drug war. He hasn't decriminalized marijuana or any of the other Schedule I drugs. There are plenty of ways that you can attack Joe Biden and the Democrats from the left without giving aid and comfort to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson. I mean, it just seems ridiculous. And again, I love the whole idea of like, oh, they're replacing you. Tucker Carlson, they're replacing you. Does that mean that what? That they're going to take you and ship you out somewhere? Or ship you to another country? That seems weird. Are they going to dump you in a hole somewhere? It's very vague language. No, you're not going anywhere. Nothing is changing for you unless, except you might see a few more brown people around. But I guess for Tucker Carlson's audience, oh no, that sets off all the alarms. And because they're afraid, of course, that if they ever do become a minority in this country, white people, that they're going to get treated the way that they currently treat brown people and black people. Now, if you're afraid of that, I got news for you. You might be a little racist. But you know what's good? There's a positive thing here. Racism, it can be cured. You can cure that ignorance with knowledge. It's not like racism has to stick with you. It is a learned behavior, and it can be unlearned. And I think that's really important, right? And so, look, if you want to point out, like, hey, this is what racism is to right-wingers, I mean, well, good luck. I mean, yes, not every right-winger is an insane racist, but I think for a lot of them, it's not a deal breaker. And that's unfortunate. Now, for people like Tucker Carlson, however, well, they go out there every day and ensure that people stay fearful of immigrants from coming in from the southern border and lie about the reasons people are coming into this country. It is not to replace you. It's not to take your job. It's not to take your wife, or your girlfriend, or impose Sharia law on you or anything like that. No, they're here to try to get a better life. And we should actually afford them a pathway to citizenship, ways to help them integrate into this country economically. And by the way, if you're out there omitting the benefits of immigration on our economy and our culture, well, I mean, then look, you're leaving out in a very important context, because those things, those benefits for our society, our country, are indisputable facts. Look, all of this, it really shows me that there are people out there who are so absolutely desperate to attack the Democrats, and that they end up falling into the trap of allying with the right wing and enabling fascism. Look, I don't blame Bree for being mad at Democrats. There's a lot of things from 2016 and 2020 that left a bad taste in all of our mouths as progressives. Absolutely. Sure, you can be mad, but don't be so mad that you fall into the arms of right-wingers and start caping for them. Look, Briahna Joy Gray was smeared relentlessly during the 2020 campaign when she was the spokeswoman for Bernie Sanders. I saw those headlines. But that's not, again, politics is fucking dirty. And we all know this. We all know this. But if you're so mad, if you're still so salty about that you end up defending Tucker Carlson, to own the libs, especially members of the squad, because they didn't force the vote. I don't think that's a good direction to go into. Let me just remind people that you can fight against the establishment without giving aid and comfort to the right wing, who need it the least. All right. Whew. It's crap like this that makes me not want to watch any of the people I used to watch. Who can you trust? You know, look, you trust the people who are honest with you, you know? I mean, that's all I can say. There's a lot of people, and this is really unfortunate too. There's a lot of people that I liked, that I looked up to in some respects, or at least respected, who have just flown completely off the rails since 2016, since 2020. It's like their brains have just broken. And I do understand too that the establishment is vicious to progressives. Absolutely horrendously vicious. But my God, you know, you can't just go flying into the arms of the other side. And I'm not saying that she's doing that exactly 100% of the way. I think that she, you know, believes like, oh no, I'm just trying to teach Tucker Carlson's audience. I'm trying to reach out and maybe convince them that I'm right by praising Tucker Carlson. Again, I don't get the logic of it, but maybe she thinks that she's doing the right thing. I don't know for sure. But I do know definitely Marjorie Taylor Greene, not to the left of the squad on any of these issues. I never considered Brie to be a liar, but I do think she has a tendency to overthink / reason herself into odd corners because she wants to see results. That's fair. Fair enough. All right. I have one more story too. Dave Rubin's story that I want to get to. So let's do it. Speaking of people who did go to the dark side, it appears Dave Rubin is saying dumb things again. This time, he argues that he is more at home on the right wing because the right wing has actually gone to the left. Watch this pretzel logic in action.
The left has gone completely bananas, and you cannot argue that the right has done the same thing. The right, you could argue, has moved left. The right, nobody cares about gay marriage anymore. Nobody does. There's no mainstream politician in America that cares about gay marriage. They might have their own personal views on it and religious liberty and their own beliefs, but there's nobody, you know, 8 years ago, there were many Republicans that were running against this, Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee and a bunch of others. Those guys are gone. Mm-hmm. Trump completely changed that. So if anything, you could argue that the right moved left, and of course you can argue that the left moved way left.
Look, I really think that Dave Rubin needs to have a little bit more time to put his brain in recovery mode because it's not working. It is short-circuited, okay? It's overheating. You can see the smoke coming out from his ears when he's saying, oh no, it's the right wing that's actually moved left. What? No, this is objectively not true, and I'm gonna prove it. For one, of course, Republicans have moved further to the right, way further to the right than the Democrats who have moved to the left. In fact, there's a study on this. I'm going to show you. This is from Pew Research here. Look, Republicans have moved further to the right than Democrats have to the left. So you see, pretty big shift to the right when it's barely a little bit of a shift to the left. Conservatives have become more conservative. Democrats generally pretty much just the same. But okay, to be fair, we're fair on the show. Look, Dave is specifically talking about the issue of gay marriage, same-sex marriage. Okay. To be fair, 70% of the country thinks that gay marriage is fine. Great. Hey, wonderful. And that includes Republican voters who are like, well, I guess it's okay. It turns out that that the Republicans who are arguing against this were wrong, and that society did not collapse. We still don't like it, but I guess we'll allow them to do that. Okay, all right. Now, here's the thing, right? I don't think civil rights should be a left or right issue. I think it should be a American issue, right? And what do I mean by that? It means that every American should be in favor of more civil rights. And so, now that said, right, there are Republicans, specifically evangelical Republicans, that have been ramping up their culture wars. First against trans people, of course, since they lost in gay marriage, it's shifted over to attacking trans people. And now it still is deeply homophobic. There is still a lot of homophobia in the Republican Party. Now, that said, let me go here to elected Republicans in Virginia, right? As an example. The Republican-controlled House recently defeated measures back in February of this year that would have let voters decide whether to strip legally outdated language banning gay marriage from the state constitution and automatically restore voting rights of felons who have served their terms. So now look, great. Yeah, let's get rid of that outdated language. Again, a majority of voters say that we're fine with same-sex marriage. So, okay, why don't we put it to the people to decide whether we can take that language out? Now, of course, the language, it's not really in effect because we have Obergefell. But if Obergefell were to suddenly disappear, well, then same-sex marriage would be outlawed in Virginia. So now Republicans, I thought they cared about sending it back to people. In fact, that was their entire argument for allowing Roe v. Wade to strip. That's the Supreme Court argument. They're all defending that. Oh, send it back to the states. Send it back to the states. Give it to the people. Let the people decide if they want to have people allow women to have abortions, right? Well, on the issue of gay rights, Dave Rubin says it's settled. It's settled. Republicans fine with gay marriage. All right, then why did all the Republicans vote against allowing people to strip out that language for them to voice their opinion? Weird. In fact, Josh Hetzler, counsel for the Family Foundation of Virginia, warned that this measure would open the door to, quote, polygamy and other types of marriage. So same-sex marriage now suddenly the same as polygamy and other types of marriage, which I think is kind of ironic because Tennessee had tried to pass a bill allowing for child marriage until they got called out and caught and all that. So it seems like they seem to be in favor of other types of marriage, but just not the gay kind. Nice slippery slope too, by the way. Now, that said, a lot of critics from the right wing say that the left has been arguing with the slippery slope, saying, oh, well, just because we're going after and stripping abortion rights from millions of women and, LGBT folks as well that have uteruses, well, that doesn't mean we're going to come after Obergefell. You guys are crazy. You crazy lefties. You thinking we're coming after the ads? No, of course, we're not interested. No. Now, Business Insider recently spoke with a dozen Republican senators, asking each of them whether they believe the draft opinion on Roe threatens marriage equality and whether they would support overturning Obergefell. None of them gave a clear yes or no answer, and several outright declined to comment. In fact, they asked Republican Senator Mike Braun of Indiana. You remember Mike Braun, right? The guy who is let the states decide interracial marriage. You know, that guy who's not in favor of black people marrying white people and, all the other different things like that. Oh, should be left up to the states, guys. He's told Insider that he had no idea whether Obergefell could be overturned or not. He argued that the case was, quote, a narrow consideration just on an issue that's been contested for like 49 years. Right. Okay. And then added, I'm not going to wade into any of that. He said with a laugh, asked whether he would support outlawing same-sex marriage. Josh Hawley was also asked about this. He said he'd be shocked and chagrined if Obergefell was also overturned because, unlike with abortion, he says, there's little popular appetite to revoke same-sex marriage rights. I'll get to that in a minute. That's wrong. Here's what he said. Here's his quote. I think that Obergefell was wrongly decided. And you're going to hear a lot of this, by the way. I've already heard Ben Shapiro, for example. Oh, yeah, I'm against... I think Obergefell was a really bad decision. But that said, you're a lunatic if you think that they're actually the Supreme Court is going to take away gay rights, even though I think that they totally should. It's almost as if they're giving up the game here. But here's more of his quote. I think at this point, it is also settled law. I'm not aware of any concerted effort to get Obergefell overturned, and I don't think that this opinion will result in that happening. I'd be shocked if that happened. I just don't see it. Here's Republican Senator Ted Cruz saying to Insider that Roe v. Wade was a uniquely divisive decision in contrast to same-sex marriage, which enjoys broad support. Now, do you know how many Americans support same-sex marriage? That's 70%. Again, the majority of the country. So, yeah, they're right in oh, yeah, of course, not a divisive issue, same-sex marriage, of course. Yeah, we're all fine with that, even though we disagree. But we're totally fine with it. Well, you know how many people think that we should continue to have Roe v. Wade? Turns out, roughly 70% of adults surveyed say the decision to get an abortion should not be made by lawmakers, but left to the pregnant woman and her doctor. Wait, 70% of Americans support same-sex marriage. 70% of Americans think that the decision to have an abortion should be between the doctor and a woman. Wait a minute. That seems like it's really the same. Huh. But okay, but how's an abortion, how's that issue more divisive then? It appears that they're not exactly being honest, are they? No, of course not. And by the way, going back to Josh Hawley, when he said, I'd be shocked if that happened, I just don't see them going after Obergefell. I just don't see it. Well, how many right-wingers also have said the same thing about Roe? How many conservatives said, oh, no, it's established precedent. Of course we're not going to challenge that. It's the law of the land. Oh. Maybe people like, I don't know, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, the very Supreme Court justices, Neil Gorsuch, who have now decided to overturn, if the draft is right, and look, everything that I know says that it is, if the draft is correct, those are the same people who are now going to overturn Roe, who said, oh, it's decided, it's the law of the land, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm not going to challenge that. Oops. No, it's a sleight of hand. That's what they're doing. Of course they're being dishonest. They're lying to you. We know exactly what they're doing. No, and again, they've been telegraphing this. And their attacks against trans people. calling everyone who is an LGBTQ plus teacher a groomer, the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, banning books that mention LGBTQ lifestyles. What do you think that leads up to? Yeah, it's the eventual overturning of Obergefell. But I think the left that's doing that. No, it's the right wing. It's the right wing that continues to be more and more extreme. And by the way, if you don't believe me, okay, if you're like, whatever, lib, you're not a free thinker like Dave Rubin. Well, let me show you a video here of just how some members of the right think about their friend Dave Rubin, who, by the way, is going to become a parent through surrogacy. And that's generally a wonderful thing. But no, here's what Lauren Witzke and her friend think about this.
Just see what they said about that pedophile couple that are trafficking kids. What's her name again?
Are you talking about Dave Rubin?
Oh, Dave Rubin. That's it. Yeah, Dave Rubin. Yeah. Coming soon, baby one. Where did they steal this kid from? That's two men. Well, two men are gay.
Yeah,
they can't have kids.
It's got to pop out first, and then that's when they snatch them.
Oh, that's when they steal it.
Yeah, that's when they steal it. But that's like plotting a crime right there. So somebody should probably do something about that.
Sheriff Opile? Should we call Sheriff Opile? Someone needs to deal with this.
We should call somebody because I have a kidnapping in process.
Seriously, look, what is he crying for? Is he crying because he got away with it almost? Look at this. These two men who cannot reproduce. The only thing they can reproduce and create is more debauchery and AIDS.
Those ain't leftists. No, those are right-wingers. Look, again, what should be an incredibly happy time in Rubin's life. Well, it won't be because he's surrounded by people like this. And by the way, he defends this. He defends people that hate his very being. Called him a pedophile. And of course, there are others that he says, no, look, behind the scenes, privately, a lot of people were very, very happy about this wonderful change in my life. Oh, why is it private, Dave? It's because they can't say anything publicly? Some did. To be fair, Megyn Kelly, I think, said something about that. Okay, all right. So there are some legitimately not hateful conservatives out there that are not anti-gay. But then you have a lot of people in that party there that agree with these people who say that they're stealing babies. That's the side that Dave Rubin thinks is more to the left. That has moved to the left on same-sex rights. Enjoy your new friends, Dave. And your money. And your nice house. You've earned it. Okay. All right. That's quite a show. So they think adoption is surrogacy. But yeah, they don't want gay people to adopt or to have surrogates, surrogate pregnancies, and any of that. They just they hate gay people. It's very, very obvious in their words that they hate gay people. All right. Any super chats? No super chats today. Well, that's a bummer. Let's go over here to Twitch. Some new follows. Thank you for the new follows, by the way, today. All right, let's... oh, yeah. So now, I did mention that we're going to have a guest host tomorrow. So I'm going to announce who that is. So tomorrow, I will be joined by Mike Figueredo, the Humanist Report, who will be here co-hosting with me. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Should be a great amount of fun. It'll be the first time I've had Mike on the show, on this particular show. So would I be up for a collab with Gremlo? I don't know who Gremlo is. I'd have to look into him. So we'll look into. I'll look into that. Thank you, Madi Darno. Really appreciate that. Rower Sarabeth, thank you for the 100 biddies as well. Really appreciate that. I love Mike. They need him on TYT more. Yeah. So really looking forward to doing the show with Mike. And again, doing more collaborations for sure. Again, looking to people, but I'm generally pretty open with working with other people. So, it's going to be a fun show tomorrow. So make sure to tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern right here around the nation. All right. More porridge, please. So, all right. Anyway, I always wonder why I don't see him as a guest on more shows. I'm guessing that he probably doesn't get asked a lot, which is weird, but I don't know. Generally, when it comes to, people, look, we're very, very busy people. So that's the thing, right? So we do spend a lot of time coming up with these streams, doing the graphics, doing all that shit, and then doing the presentation, of course. And so generally, I tend to consider a lot of people too busy. That's why I don't tend to ask a lot. But again, Mike's pretty cool. So, and I've done some collaborations with him before, like going on his show, Dystopian Times, things like that. And so, and the Twitch stream I did a while back. So I think it was time to bring him on the show. So again, it's going to be fun. Tune in. Thank you all. Like and share the stream if you haven't already. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See y'all later.
Eat your ass! I'm a fatty fatso. Tolerized. Disappointed! Internets.
Obama. They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.